Welcome to the Disruptive Innovation Festival, the online festival that asks the question, what if we could redesign everything? We've designed our current systems in a certain way that might not be too durable in the long haul. And some of the ways that we notice that is, for example, the increased amount of hurricanes that we've seen in the couple of years past. And some would say we have to change the way we live, but what does that actually mean? Today, we're joined by Martijn Lopez-Cardoso and Clara Song, and they will introduce us to the idea of a circular community. Please, this is an interactive session, so post all your questions, your comments in a comment box underneath this live video, or tweet using the hashtag ThinkDiff. That's it for me for now. Over to Clara.
Afternoon, Yip. How was school today? Where are you headed now?
Hey, Janneke. Well, it was not my favorite. I mean, we had a really great Brussels sprout harvest from our summer crop, but then it meant we had to eat it for lunch. It seems like my new compost from Ted's farmed workers worked wonders. But like I said, the eating part was not so good. My mom's now asking me to run some errands for her. Off to Ted's to get some cheese and milk for tomorrow morning. Hey, Janneke, do you want anything?
Well, actually, I love Brussels sprouts, but I can imagine you wouldn't like it. But congratulations on your crop. I just finished work and I'm heading over to the community centre. I'm on recycling monitoring duty today. Actually, could you get me a bottle of milk? I think 2 unions will be enough. Either your mum and dad can bring it when they come. Thanks, and I'll see you around.
Yep, I'll get it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, welcome to Blackbear's session on redesigning the community. What can we learn from Yip cycling to school? So first of all, who is Yip and Janneke? Well, most of you who are not Dutch, like me, will probably not be familiar with these characters from a series of popular children's books. The reason for using Yip and Janneke in our story is not only because we are a company based in the Netherlands, but because Yip and Janneke taal, or language, is used in the context of politics to explain things in layman's terms. A bit like the Bank of England and how they took inspiration from Dr. Seuss books to simplify the way they report and make their data accessible to the public. We think the first step to circularity is to simplify things and to make it accessible. Because in fact, circularity should be simple, and I think we like to make things a bit more complicated than it should be. So Martijn, who has helped to portray our 10-year-old Yip, is in fact our CEO, and he will tell you a bit more about Blackbear. Martijn, over to you.
All right, let me share the screen here for a second to tell you a little bit about, no, something went wrong here. Let me try this again.
Yeah, try it again, and you can open your presentation quickly and have that in front of your screen. Yes. All
right, let me take a couple minutes to tell everybody about sort of Blackbear so you know where we're coming from. And this is a presentation actually Clara did last week at the COP23 event in Bonn, hosted by the EIB. So each year, more than 2 billion tires reach the end of their life. And this is a really big problem because in many places, as you can see, they're burnt or even worse, landfilled, creating massive amounts of CO2 pollution and other hazardous materials. The other big problem is the production of the tire. A big component of a tire is a black powder called carbon black. It's all around you. It's in tires, it's in black paint, it's in ink. It's basically everything that's black around you. And the production of these black powder is very polluting. It takes about 2.5 liters of crude oil to create 1 kilo of carbon black. And then it goes into the tires, and it's burned, wasting a lot of precious resources. As you all know, unfortunately, tires is not unique. We basically are living in a linear economy. We take, we make, and we dispose. We throw away the valuable resources and heat up the precious earth. So I think with this audience, everybody agrees this has to stop. So basically, we have designed a circular solution. So we start with the tires, we take the steel out, we harvest the carbon black that can be reused for new tires, paint, ink, and other applications. And for each installation we build, we save more CO2 than 1 million trees can consume. And we won't stop with one installation. There's enough tires in the world to build 1,500 of them, saving almost 1.5 billion trees. And that's not the only impact we have. So recently, and that's why Claire presented this to the COP23, we linked it also to the SDG goals. And we're basically cover about 8 of them. Most of them are on the green side, climate, industry, affordable clean energy, but also on the clean side, because our product is much less polluting than the one made from fossil fuels. And the last thing we did, we partnered with Start Foundation here in the Netherlands to also make it an inclusive company. So once we roll out and we have these local installations, we try to work with people who have a distance to the labor market. So where are we now? So our plant is up and running here in beautiful Nederweert in the Netherlands. It can process about 1.5 million tires each year. And we have a lot of leading buyers of the carbon black signed up, ranging all the way from DSM, Akzo Nobel, BASF, Michelin, Goodyear, and we're very excited about that. So where do we take it from here? Well, we have a very scalable model, and basically the way we work is we work with the established tire collectors. And these tire collectors have tires, they have land, and in a lot of cases, they also have capital to fund these projects. So basically, we go where the tires are and build local communities around them. So this is our team. As you can see, Claire is on the left top. I'm on the right bottom. We're about 20 folks now. Do we want to conquer the world? Thank you very much. And I think what we do now is basically, let me go first back to the Google Hangout. 1 second. So yeah, I think I'm back now. So I think we want to have make this discussion a little bit more broad than the discussion just around Black Bear. And on the tire side and on this waste stream, we see the need to basically redesign everything, and that's what we're doing. But one of these conversations Claire and I were having is, what if we could redesign also our local community? And what would that mean? I mean, could we avoid a sort of overshooting beyond the 2 degrees and stabilize our global climate? And the 2 degrees warming scenario was originally proposed in the 90s as an upper limit that would avert the worst consequences of climate change. In a business as usual scenario, scientists expect global temperatures to rise by at least 3 degrees Celsius by 2100. The UNFCCC still this is scenario as economically feasible and cost effective. Unfortunately, another report found that we have roughly 5% chance of meeting the 2 degree target. So something has to happen. Clara?
Yep. Well, climate change threatens to reverse the gains of development. We have all heard about the severe climatic and economic damages in the relatively near future if we don't act. So addressing this challenge requires unprecedented mobilization of financial resources and diffusion of appropriate technologies. And Black Bear is heavily involved in this. But like Martijn said, we think part of the change should come from the average person, therefore inspiring us to look at redesigning the community and how we live. So to have a little fun, we're going to now go back into our little town. It's actually in 2019, and you are a new member to our community, and you can imagine yourself being on a guided tour. So, welcome. Our town has attracted each member through their aligned awareness, willingness, and ability to question business as usual. And we started with 10 families, and now over 2 years, we have grown to 300 strong community. And somehow out of need, we have become clean tech innovators and bioagricultural developers. And to Martijn.
Thanks, Clara. So first topic is living in a sustainable planned neighborhood. So what we have done our best to use existing infrastructure and buildings to take advantage of previous investments and the energy already used to build them. If we assess that new outweighs upgrading older buildings, we build new buildings. All new buildings are built compactly and use energy-efficient green building techniques, which reduce emissions from outflow of electricity generation and transportation. This means we have been able to limit vehicle mileage by 20%. Anyway, in the Netherlands, we cycle everywhere, and we have newfound appreciation of this very normal mode of transportation here. Our homes, jobs, stores, parks, schools, and other destinations are close to each other, so that we can walk, cycle, or take public transportation. We have some new development plans, and we work as a community to develop the optimal solution. Of course, we all love the nature and ensure we preserve as much green space as possible.
The next part of our community is recycling. So to be honest, we know zero waste is the best way forward, but we also believe changing habits overnight is difficult. Our shops are based on zero packaging principle, but it's quite amazing how much packaging you can go through without even realizing it. So we have implemented a strict recycling regime to support us to transitioning into zero waste. Generally in the Netherlands, you get these recycling bins, but we wanted to take it to the new level. So we have taken inspiration from Taiwan or in South Korea, where people, residents of an apartment complex, take rotating shifts to ensure different types of plastics, paper, boxes, fabric waste, and electrical goods are disposed in a proper manner. We have tried to locate the best services within or outside the community to handle the waste for reuse and recycling. And our aim is to upcycle the waste as much as possible so we can use it again and again. So it's a bit like referencing back to Black Bear, a bit like using carbon black, taking the carbon black from waste tires and using it back in new tires.
Hey Janneke, you forget to mention the compost. We have these special bins for good waste. I think most of it goes to our farmer, but the grow team at our school needs to bring 2 bins back each week to make compost. I'm so happy I'm not on the grow team this month, because it really stinks.
That is so true. I mean, I know how valuable food waste is, but let's say the smell is not something I will ever get used to. Actually, talking about recycling, I really like the plastics the most. I mean, who would have known that some plastics can be recycled better than others? Some can be reused as valuable raw material, and low grade usually for energy purposes. And most of our low grade plastic goes to a plastic pyrolysis plant down the road in the industrial zone to produce oil and gas. And to take advantage of the thermal heat that is generated from this plant, we have recently installed a line to get excess heat.
Which brings us to the topic of energy. So one of the providers we use is currently the greenest standard energy provider at the moment. We're trying to phase this out by installing our own community-only energy stream. All new buildings are built with induction stop stoves, as it's the aim in the Netherlands to eradicate the use of gas stoves by 2050. We're trying to implement a community-wide sharing system so that any energy generated or not can be used or not used can be shared amongst community members. This is already done with those who have solar panels. We want to see if we can roll this out on a wider scale and in line with our plans to be self-sufficient energy producers.
We have also taken inspiration from a Swiss community to introduce a community currency. Janneke briefly talked about unions, and this is based on the WIR franc, which has been in circulation for 80 years. And this community currency has shown resilience to economic cycles, and research by economists show that the WIR creates a counter-cyclical tendency in the economy, meaning that during financial crises, the trade in the WIR network increases and hence enables SME businesses to avoid a severe downturn in profits and annual turnover. Other examples of community currency is the Bristol pound in the UK, or the Chiemgauer, I hope I pronounced that right, in Germany, which in fact was actually started as a school project.
The other thing is rewarding good habits. So what we have in our local community is a credit system where green purchasing habits are rewarded. It can either be converted to community cash or donated to a community development fund. What we prefer. We are talking with the province to see if this is viable throughout the whole province. Hopefully it could be a way to spend nationally. We want good habits to be something available to a greater group than just a community like us. Although I hear there are more and more communities like ours popping up. For instance, this has been implemented in Korea by the Korean government with the green credit card, where they have issued 50 million cards, 55% of the economically active community in Korea.
So I've started charging my work in unions, our community currency for community members. It's funny because I put the symbol on my website and I get a lot of inquiries from non-community members about what the symbol means, which actually gives a really good reason to start talking about sustainability and circularity. I occasionally shop at general supermarkets more than I would like to admit to, but since changing the way I charge my work within the community, I feel more inclined to head back to local grocers so I can use my the currency I've been earning.
We're doing a Christmas donation competition. The more green credit each student and their family can get by the end of the month, the more money we can earn to buy food and presents for the needy. Our class is a little behind, so I think I need to push my mom to spend. So, what do you guys think about our community? And maybe now Jip and Janneke should step aside for a second and we should open it up for a broader discussion.
Any questions?
So I thank you for that and introducing Jip and Janneke to the whole circular community system. So I was wondering, like, from where we are now to the proposed circular community, what does it take to make that change to get there?
Well, maybe I'll take the first answer. So I think the way we came up with this concept is basically what we're trying to do with Black Bear is actually a small piece to a much bigger puzzle. So we're basically taking one very specific waste stream, tires, really trying to get a circular solution around it with all elements in it. So I think I mentioned the green, the clean, but also the community aspect and inclusive jobs. Another way, of course, to approach it is to say, let's sort of take a small community and try to make that circular in all aspects. And I think the essence is, in order to make this big transition to the larger circular economy, you have to start really small. So either one waste stream at a time or one community at a time. And I think once you do that and you do it all the way, it's actually easier to change a small community and to make it complete circular than to make the whole community a bit circular. So that's sort of the overarching philosophy, kind of.
So it's about using building blocks to create a bigger circular community in the end, right? How about working together? Because collaboration, I've heard that before, is kind of key, probably. How do you see that in the change to a circular community?
Oh, sorry, I missed your question because there was something with the connect.
All right. The question was, how can you elaborate on how collaboration and stakeholder management takes place into that future circular community?
Well, I think generally the lack of communication tends for us to have these kind of inefficiencies in the way we operate. So we would definitely see that collaboration is key to get things off the ground. So the more people communicate about the way they use things or the way they produce things, creates dialogue, and therefore you can actually get rid of a lot of overlaps. Obviously, also part of stakeholder management, I think, is there's always difficulty, I guess. If too many people have something to say, then you kind of lose the plot. So I think the key is, yes, you have to collaborate, but you have to keep focused on what the actual agenda is. Anything to add on, Martijn?
Yeah, I think with I mean, the easiest way always to get buy-in is to show success. And I think one of the challenges of showing success is that because circular economy involves different aspects of the whole value chain, you need to get a lot of different parties involved. By making it, I think, really tangible and really practical, and getting critical mass. So, for instance, in a community, I think I heard a presentation the other day of, a community living on an island. I mean, if you're living on an island, everybody knows, you have to deal with your own waste, you have to build your own ecosystem, you have to do a lot of things, and there's not a lot of ability to avoid the problems you create yourself. And I think in such an environment, all the stakeholders will more easily align than in a place where you have to force align them.
So if you would take like Black Bear Carbon as the success story for now, how do you have some examples and some experiences that you've had in working towards that circular community?
Well, so I think the best place to view that is in our customer base. So the industry has been buying this sort of this black powder, this black material, carbon black, that's sort of in the ink and in the paints and in the rubber and in the tires. For hundreds of years, or at least over 100 years, and it's always been made from oil. So it's quite a transition if you introduce a new sort of material into the market. At the same time, we've seen a lot of people being very excited about that, and sort of buying into the circular story and trying to contribute and going out of their way to test it and make sure it works for their specific applications. So I think the willingness is there, and I think that's a great example where you can get the community involved in validating a new product, and then that makes the whole business model viable.
Yeah, and just to add on top of that, I think the general user awareness, if you look at a broader kind of community, I think that's really important for us as well. So for example, you know, I've been holding up this sign and we have this ink. Well, there's carbon black in this ink. So to understand that everything you use that is black, you know, including mascara and eyeliner, which I think a lot of people wear, you need kind of demand from that side as well, to be aware that the traditional carbon black you've been using comes from crude oil. There's an alternative raw material that can be used.
That's very interesting to hear. I think I want to wrap up this session soon, but just for now, for the viewers, do you have like this takeaway where people can start getting more aware and start adapting to the change towards the circular community?
Well, for me personally, I think it's just about, just as an average person and not as someone from Black Bear, I would say just think about what you do on a daily basis. Maybe be a bit more aware of your daily life and the routine. So for example, if you go to the supermarket, I actually get quite surprised with how much plastic packaging there is. So I consciously go to different types of stores where they use less packaging, or go to the market instead. So little things like that, because I mean, changing a habit is quite difficult, but I think you start taking baby steps in the way you think about how you live.
Yeah, so I think the biggest contribution in this phase of transitioning to a circular economy, when we're actually still so scratching the surface, is showing some short-term wins. So, you know, I truly hope, and thanks for sort of calling us a success example. I don't think we're there yet as Black Bear, but like having a couple like Black Bear type companies and a couple real tangible examples that maybe address one waste stream or one community or one ecosystem, where people can say, you know, 5 years ago we were linear and now we're circular. You can do it too. I think that's how you get the most impact.
All right, thanks a lot. That was really inspiring. And I think for everybody viewing, if you want to read in a bit more of Black Bear Carbon, you can go, they have a website explaining a lot more about the work that they do. I think it's a very, very great lesson to learn that we should look also in small steps and not only think about the bigger picture that is called the circular economy, circular community. So thanks for the session. I really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody watching at home as well. If you have more questions, still feel free to ask them on the session page. I'll ask Clara and Martijn to answer them sometime. And for that, thanks for now. Just a reminder of another session that we have coming up today. At 5 p.m. we have a session from designers Jan Leijsen and Casper van der Meer, who will talk about the positive social impact that design can have. For all the sessions that you could have missed so far, no worries. All the sessions are to be watched back on DIF on demand. Just simply go to the website www.thinkdiff.co, and you can find out more, a lot of sessions that have been going on with the DIF for now. So that's it for me for now. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.